What's happening, people? Welcome back. Welcome back to another one. Hope all is well. We back at it again, doing a recap for the Lil Durk trial. We're going to listen to some people that was there. So we're going to do that as well. And we're going to get to it. For those that's watching the rebroadcast, please give us a like, comment, share, subscribe, give us a hype us up. All that good stuff will be greatly, greatly appreciated. Now, I would have loved to have gone to this trial, but I can't. So I'm only can go on the reporters that are there, and I can discern whether they BS it or not, because I know how the legal system works. So it's a couple people I listen to. Then we're gonna go from there. But I'm gonna read a few things, and then we're gonna listen to what the people had to say and all that good stuff right there, man. How's everybody doing, man? Hope everybody is doing exceptionally well. So let me go to the notes here. So as of Thursday evening, August 27th, 2026, the biggest story is Casey OTF Jam Hester testimony. Hester is cooperating, as we all know. He's a cooperating prosecution witness and has directly implicated Lil Durk in the alleged plot targeting Quando Rondo, another fellow rapper. Durk has pleaded not guilty, and his lawyers are attacking Hester's credibility and the government's interpretation of the evidence. So what happened today? So OTF Jam returned to the witness stand. He told jurors that despite testifying against Durk, he still has affection for him and acknowledged Durk had helped him in the past. Wow. All right. Hester and Durk supported. Hester said Durk supported him while he was incarcerated, including keeping him in contact and putting money on his books. Hester also gave testimony about the alleged murder plot. According to his account, after traveling to California, he was informed of a plan involving Quando Rondo. Hester testified that Durk allegedly communicated that people involved would be financially straight if they caught Quando Rondo or Lil Tim. These names is crazy, Lil Tim. It's like, I'll get into that in a second. That is Hester's allegation under oath, not an established fact or finding against Durk. Another significant piece of Hester's testimony concerned an alleged earlier attempt to locate Quando Rondo outside of the Level Hotel in Los Angeles. Hester claimed that the group waited for Rondo but abandoned the attempt because there were too much police presence. Brian Steele in the defense. This is interesting. And so Brian Steele has already highlighted how cooperating witnesses are repeatedly interviewed by investigators, while relatively few of those interviews were recorded. Reporting from earlier testimony indicated that Hester had been interviewed numerous times, while only a small number of those sessions were recorded. That gives Steele an ongoing opening to argue that the jurors do not have the complete record of how Hester's story developed over time. Today, Hester also discussed the consequences of cooperating. He acknowledged that within the Black disciple culture, cooperating against somebody can be viewed extremely seriously, describing snitching as potentially a death sentence. That matters because the jury is being shown an enormous pressure surrounding his decision to testify. Mistrial issue. There was also a notable moment involving Tory Lanez. All right. Give me 1 second here. 1 second, guys. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so there was a notable moment involving Tory Lanez. Reports say Hester described an incident in which he allegedly talked about taking a chain from someone associated with Tory Lanez and claimed Durk encouraged that aggressive behavior. Brian still objected because the alleged incident is not the murder for hire charge being tied, and argued it could unfairly prejudice the jury against Durk, which I agree. Still reportedly sought a mistrial. You know why? Because the jury already heard it. They can't unhear the question. I mean, they can't unhear the statement either. The judge did not grant a mistrial, according to reporting on today's proceedings. Also, Kanye West showed up. We're going to see that in a second from somebody's account. According to today, Kanye West appeared at the federal courthouse in Los Angeles in supporting of Durk. Let me just note something real quick. He also showed up at the Diddy trial for a hot second. So it said Kanye showed up at the federal courthouse in Los Angeles to support Durk. Reports say he attended while Hester's testimony was continuing. The government overall theory is that Durk wanted retaliation after the November 2020 killing of King Von and financed and directed people associated with OTF to target Quando Rondo. The August 2022 shooting instead killed Quando's cousin, Survey Robinson, known as Lil Pab. Prosecutors described Durk during opening statements as motivated by revenge. And again, Durk defense is saying to the contrary. Durk's lawyers are essentially telling the jury the government has the wrong mastermind. In opening statements, the defense placed major responsibility on Kevon Grant, known as OTF Vonnie, arguing that Grant handled important logistics surrounding the trip and shooting, and later had an incentive to cooperate with prosecutors. Durk's attorneys maintain that Durk had nothing to do with the arranging the killing. That makes the cooperation witnesses enormously important. Prosecutors have indicated that OTF Jam, Keith Jones, and Kevon Grant are among cooperating witnesses and expected to testify. All right, so let me go back. So in opening statements, the defense placed major responsibility on Kevon Grant, known as OTF Vonnie. However, prosecutors have indicated that OTF Jam, Keith Jones, and Kevon Grant are among cooperating witnesses. So the defense is saying Kevon Grant was the mastermind, but he's a government witness. So it's going to come down to who the jury believes here. Do they think that these witnesses are credible? That makes the cooperating witnesses. Yes, I already said that. So that's where the trial is right now, guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to hear from a few people. We're going to hear from a few people right now. Let me see. Who should I start out with? I think I'm going to start with Taylor. Let's start with Taylor.
Hi, I'm Taylor Priest, Los Angeles Magazine, and we are back at Lil Durk's murder for hire trial, where we picked back up where we left off yesterday with Casey Hester, or OTF Jam's testimony. So we kind of went back, got a little more information about what happened leading up to the murder of Savia Robinson. Hester and Banks, though, I wanted to note, before court started, they stared at each other from across the room. It was quite a good amount of time. I couldn't see Durk's face, but Hester's face was very serious. When he looked away, he just kind of stared at the ground after. And it was also interesting that the defense noted before court started that they couldn't see Hester's face. They wanted to make sure they had a clear view of Hester's face. They had to move the monitor. And from my recollection, that monitor was there yesterday. So I don't know if this is a new thing that they decided they wanted in court today. So again, we got back to Hester's testimony where he testified. They went back to the Level Hotel where Quando Rondo and his crew were staying. And they parked that Infiniti and that BMW that was rented right outside the Level Hotel again. He testified that there was too many people outside the hotel, which is kind of similar to why they decided not to, he testified, kill Quando Rondo the night before. So they decided that was not the location. There were too many people driving around. So he discussed the BMW and the Infiniti. He was in the Infiniti with Keith Jones and Lindsay and Asa Houston. They were all in the Infiniti together, and then DeAndre Wilson and Grant were in the rented BMW. He testified to them following the black Escalade that Quando Rondo and Savia Robinson were in to a weed dispensary called Litco. He said that they were looking around for a, quote, quick getaway. He then discussed, he said they were on the phone the entire time, the Infiniti and the BMW. They were in constant contact, is what he said, discussing when the right time was. At one point, Hester testified that Lindsay went into the dispensary to get a look to see where Quando Rondo was. He had said Quando Rondo was towards the back, and they didn't feel like that was the right place. So they then followed the black Escalade to a clothing store in Beverly Hills. And there, Hester testified that they were on the phone talking about how they were worried that door of the clothing store had an automatic lock on it and they didn't want to be stuck.
So, guys, yeah, what's happening here is he's pretty much laying out what happened that day on that fateful shooting. And again, I want to say this, I'm going to let Taylor continue, but it's going to come down to whether the jury think that this witness is credible or not. You know, because from my understanding, there's really no money tying this murder to, there's no money. They can't prove the money exchange. So they're going to have to take their word for it, but they're going to have to be credible.
But they allegedly considered going inside and shooting Quando Rondo there. He states multiple times that he does not know Los Angeles. He doesn't know the area, so he can't speak to where they're at most of the time, but he said he remembers the hotel, he remembers the weed dispensary, he remembers the clothing store, and the next thing he remembers was getting to that gas station adjacent from the Beverly Hills, the Beverly Center. He even says at one point he doesn't even know what the Beverly Center is until his attorney tells him what it is. So he explains this even in the getaway that he doesn't know the area.
So pretty much he's just saying that he was just out there for it. He was requested to go out there by Lil Durk allegedly, and he was just kind of out there. He didn't even know some of the people he was getting ready to do the caper with. And but my question is, somebody wants you to do that, like why are you going to do that? But he's known as a shooter, I guess. He's trying to be down. Money do crazy things to people, man. I'm sorry. If a friend of mine got millions and he said, hey, man, I need you to go after this person. I'm not doing that. I'd rather be regular, man. I don't want your money. Nope. I won't be doing it.
So once they get to the gas station, he testifies that they drove next to the Escalade. He even says that a tall person got out of the black Escalade and saw their car. And then they drive around. Asa Houston was driving the Infiniti. He said he knew the BMW, he didn't know where, but he knew they were in the area. And that the white Infiniti drove around the gas station. And that is when he described Lindsay jumping out of the car, moving very quickly. So him and Keith Jones were following after. And he said he's used to, this is a quote, he's used to walking on people. And so he was expecting, he testified, to get closer to Quando Rondo before they committed this shooting. But he said he was surprised. He didn't expect Lindsay to start shooting so quickly and so far away.
because he ain't got no experience. He started just shooting guys far away in broad daylight. He was like, man, I'm used to just walking down on people. You know, they just did it, guys, right across the street from the Beverly Center, guys. Okay, just shooting, just, all because their boy said so, allegedly. I don't know, Dirk. We'll see how I don't know. I know his lawyers didn't put on their case yet, but this is looking crazy.
So Lindsay, he said, threw him off, and then they all began shooting at this black Escalade. And the prosecutor asked him, were you worried about shooting at gas pumps? Were you worried about an explosion? And he very quickly was like, no, they were not concerned about that. He even kind of imitated what he heard when the shooting was occurring. He was like, dum, dum, dum. Like he imitated the gunshots happening, like he could hear it in his mind. And he also testified to it just being a very chaotic scene. He said at one point he felt like Lindsay may have fallen over. Lindsay was shouting at Jones for shooting too close to his head, which is something that the gun expert had also mentioned, that it looked like someone had gotten.
Guys, what kind of shooters are these? He said, yelling that he's shooting too close to his head. The Three Stooges, man. This is crazy. But in yesterday, he named himself as the third shooter. You know what I'm saying? He named himself. So it's crazy, guys. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Shocked by the blast of the gun next to his head. Then he talks about getting back into the Infiniti, driving around. He's on the phone. He testifies to DeAndre Wilson being on the phone with Banks, who he calls Blood. And he says he heard Blood's voice. Wilson was asking the group questions about who shot who, where they were at, wanting details from what happened. And he testified that Durk was also asking these questions to Wilson, who was asking them, relaying the information back. And so he did testify that he heard Blood's or Durk's voice on that phone call. He then also, I thought it was interesting that they then make a car switch to the black Escalade, which we knew there was a switch in cars. We hadn't heard that before. The Infiniti gets dropped off or abandoned. They get in the BMW, he says, a lot of guys squeezing this small car, and then they somehow transition to the black Escalade. Hester testified he didn't quite know how they got there, but they get in that car. And the prosecutor was very specific. Was there a partition? Could the driver hear you? And he said there was not a partition. This is something he asked before. So I wonder if there's a driver testifying. I wonder if they're setting it up for the conversation in the Escalade could be.
I was thinking the same thing. Is there going to be like a driver or somebody going to testify that say they were there? Because obviously they had to have a getaway person. Don't tell me they all got out the car. I think that's what happened. They just got out the car and started shooting, guys. Broad daylight across the street from the Beverly Center. Broad daylight. In a BMW. And then they ditched the BMW and got an Escalade. Or something like that. It's crazy. That don't seem like the type of car you use for a caper. It just don't seem like it, but
heard. This is also the same Escalade that ended up driving them to the San Diego airport that night to fly back to Chicago. He then talks about how he testifies to once he got back home, he left San Diego, he felt very mad. He felt like the shooting had nothing to do with him. He called it, quote, sloppy. He said, in my eyes, this guy was innocent. And he didn't know at that point, he testified, that it was Robinson who was hit. But he said even Quando Rondo, like he had nothing to do with this beef. He didn't know King Von very well. He didn't know Quando Rondo. He didn't feel involved, and that came up a lot. He said he had a lot of negative feelings towards that. He also said he felt Durk was, quote, selfish in asking him to be a part of this, or having him be a part of this, allegedly. And then he also has this quote where he said it's his first time being a free father to my son. And he testifies about how he just didn't feel good about what happened afterwards.
Okay, but why would you do it in the first place if you don't feel good about it? You're supposed to be you know what I'm saying? That's what he have you around for, you the hitter, But if you didn't feel like you needed to stay away, if you got kids, stay with your kids. It's crazy, but it's the free money out there. He's thinking possibly he gonna get some money out of it because I think she's gonna say it because he said that Durk allegedly mentioned if you do this, y'all gonna be good. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna be good, or something about getting a ticket. You know what I'm saying? All that good hot shit. A ticket, $1 million or 500,000. Some people out here would try to be a hitter for you for that kind of money. It's crazy.
Before we broke for lunch, before we broke for the morning break, he testified. His last testimony was that he was never offered payment before committing the shooting. That was like a big deal in the courtroom. That was a very dramatic note.
Okay, he was never. So you just gonna do it? You ain't get nothing out of it? What is he supposed to get out of this? Like just hanging around Durk? Oh Lord.
To end on, when we were brought back, he did say he said there was payment. It was afterwards, and he testified there was discussion about payment after the murder was committed. He also testified.
So there was some form of payment afterwards. Now, this is what Durk lawyers are contending, that they can't trace the payment. You know what I'm saying? They can't trace it. So it's what the lawyers are pretty much saying, guys, is their word against Durk's, pretty much.
To being in a music video called Federal Freestyle, where he was paid $10,000 to be in that music video. And he had never been in a music video, never been on an album before. And
Federal Freestyle. Federal Freestyle. Because they about to go to the Feds.
The prosecution.
Yo, let me tell you this real quick. I know somebody one time. I was like, yeah, what prison you? He said, I was like, what state prison you were in? I can't remember. He said state prison. Man, I was in the Feds. He said it to me just like that. What you talking about? State prison. Don't disrespect me. I was in the Feds. I had the U.S. Marshals come get me in SUVs. I was like, okay, crazy. Federal Freestyle, guys.
Prosecution asked him, do you think you would have been able to be in that video if you weren't a part of this shooting? And he said no, and he even testified he didn't think he would have ever been around.
All right, tough. Oh, hold up. Damn, I just exited out. My bad.
Hi, I'm Taylor Priest, Los Angeles Magazine, and he said even Quando Rondo, he had nothing to do with this beef. He didn't know or having him be a part of this, allegedly. And then he also has this quote where he said it's his first time being a free father to my son.
Let me go back.
A lot in the courtroom that Hester has testified Durk didn't like being made fun of or ridiculed for letting the shooting of King Von fly, to let that just get away with that.
You see, this is why he's in this situation. Allegedly, he don't want that to fly. You know what I'm saying? We got to get our get back. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. He said he gave him 10,000 and he was in the Federal Freestyle video. He said he wouldn't have been in that video if he wasn't part of the hit. That was his reward, being in the video. You know what I'm saying? This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, man.
And so one quote that Hester said, Durk said, was, the whole world saw them run. Them being O-Block, the crew, they ran when King Von was shot, and that was very embarrassing. That wasn't, they lost a lot of respect from that. And then they go into some beef with Rancho Lamron, his beef with the group, OTF. They were beefing with Booney Mo or Lamron was beefing with Booney Mo, and they all picked Booney Mo's side. And that beef seemed to indicate, I think they were just trying to prove that Durk is a leader in all of this. Because there is a voice conversation played, and the prosecution, well, the judge made it very clear to the jury this has nothing to do with Lindsay. His attorney wanted that to be made clear, that this was not evidence against Lindsay. But there's this whole voice message played where they say, let me find it. Blood wants shit to go right. People call him for money. It was all about how Blood was supplying the cars. Blood wanted to make sure that things didn't go awry on this alleged plot against Lamron. Finally, what was played was we went to the moment where Hester decided he wanted to be a snitch. He wanted to come forward. He discussed a somewhat guilty conscience because he didn't feel like the murder of Robinson was justified. He wasn't involved. He called him again. He said he was innocent. He said, this is a quote, "It was weighing on me and I saw the opportunity."
Now, let me stop right there. It's whether the jury is going to believe that or not. Hey, Sharif, whether the jury going to believe that or not. Did you really have a guilty conscience, or are you trying to get less time on your crimes? Which is it? So I don't know.
He was arrested in 2023 on a completely unrelated charge. He was on probation for that 12-year stint he had in jail, and he was pulled over with a gun in his car, violated his probation, went back to jail, and that is when he passed along a note that was shown in court that said, "I know about murders. I don't want to talk on camera. I know a lot."
See, I know about murders, guys. I believe he was working. I don't know. It's just my opinion. He was probably working with the feds all along. That's what I think. We never gonna know that though. Before he even something, I don't know. Hey man, that's the streets, man. All that no snitching and stuff. Shoot, man, people be telling left and right. Some of your most hardened criminals being there telling.
So essentially, that is how we are told he is connected then to this case, to being a cooperator. And right before we broke for lunch, the prosecution asked him, "How do you feel about Durk? What are your feelings like towards Durk Banks?" And he says, this may be hard to believe because of what I'm doing, but he says he has a lot of love for Durk. He said that he knows this shit won't go away, but he still has a lot of love for him, and he just doesn't have any respect for him. So I don't believe the prosecution is done. We're going to hear more from Hester and from the prosecution after our lunch break, and then hopefully we will hear from Brian Steele in cross as well and see how he questions Hester on what we've heard.
Okay. Let me just give her a link again if y'all want to follow her on Twitter. Taylor. So that is Taylor. Let me see if she provided. That was 3 hours ago. Let me see if she has an update. Not yet. As an hour ago, hold on, let me just. She said, here's a quick update on Lil Durk trial while on a brief break. Casey Hester, also known as OTF Jam, is being cross-examined now by Brian Steele. Guys, let me stop. I've seen Brian Steele in action in cross-examination during the Diddy trial, up close and personal. Okay, the guy is no joke, man. It's like he do like this. It's like a sparring session. Yeah, man, he's sparring right now. So let's see what she's saying. Oh, let me go. He's being cross-examined by Brian Steele. The room was immediately tense. Steele's demeanor has changed from respectful to intense. he asked Jam repeatedly about his family and where his family is at to support him, then asking if it's true that he doesn't speak to members of his family. This is objected, and counsel is called to the bench 3 times during the line of questioning. Jam appeared to be laughing and shaking his head each time. The counsel was called to the bench. So let me stop right there. Brian Steele is working him. He working him. What he's doing is he discrediting him to the jury. That's what he's doing. He's already creating doubt. He didn't even present the case yet. He's already because by him laughing and his demeanor, guys, all that counts. If OTF Jam is sitting up there laughing, this and that, all that counts, man, because he's only up there to save his own ass. So why would I, if I'm the juror, why would I believe him? Yeah, Brian is cooking. So let's see what else she's saying. Jam also previously testified about meeting in Georgia's studio where someone in a group meeting mentioned a payout of $500,000 or $1 million to target Quando Rondo. Durk was allegedly in the room, Jam said, and replied, whatever. She said right before the break, Brian Steele played a clip for the court in which Jam told authorities in an interview he never spoke about Rondo or Lil Tim with Durk before August 18, 2022 trip to Los Angeles. Steele points out that Georgia meeting is never mentioned. This is when the judge called for a jury break. See that? He's already cooking. He's already creating doubt. This guy is so meticulous. He finds every statement that you've ever made, and he slow walk you. He just slow walk you through the process of sitting up there and catching you in lies. That's what he's doing right now. I know he is. I've seen him up close. I know how Brian Steele is. So Jam lying. He probably lying. Yeah, the guy's good, man. Let's see. So that's her last update. I'm gonna come back to her. I'm gonna come back to her and hopefully she give an update before I get off. Let's see. And here is Lil Durk's mother leaving court. It's kind of sad.
And I started coming in with my first class and really getting
He looked like his mother too. Durk looked like his mother. Yep, he sure do. Parents.
I started coming in with my first class and really getting
Parents got to go through it, but he looked like his mom. Let's see what let me see. That was 4 hours ago. Kanye West showed up.
Kanye West pull it up to the Durk trial. Shout out to Kanye West. Shout out to Kanye West.
Kanye.
The system broken, the schools closed, the prisons open.
All right, that's did not. I seen him at the Diddy trial too. That's did not. Matter of fact, let me give you his link if you want to follow. Did not. Oh, wait a minute. I'll give it to you later. But that's did not. Let me see what else they have. Let's see what else we got here. That's it for Ray. Actually, they 32. All right, let's see what he's saying. Did not.
Now, Brian Steele is cross-examining OTF Jam. At first, I was not down with Brian Steele bringing up OTF Jam's dysfunctional relationship with his parents, his mother, his siblings. That's a big no-no in the Black community. But I see why he did it. He did it to establish that OTF Jam is a sociopath, and at times he even laughed at serious allegations, like about the time when he robbed the convenience store and splattered someone's brain on his blicky and then licked it off. He laughed about that. Very weird. Brian Steele looped it around and pointed out that OTF Jam and Lil Durk's son were best friends. That OTF Jam girlfriend and baby.
Time out on the play. Time out. He got some splatter on his blicky. He licked it off. He's a serial killer. We might have a Jeffrey Dahmer on the stand, guys. Hold up. Let me go back. Come on now. I know that ain't what I just heard.
Is a sociopath, and at times he even laughed at serious allegations, like about the time when he robbed the convenience store and splattered someone's brain on his blicky and then licked it off. He laughed about that. Very weird. Brian Steele looped it around and pointed out that OTF Jam and Lil Durk's son were best friends. That OTF Jam girlfriend and baby mother is also best friends, or was also best friends, with India Royale. Then it got very interesting. Brian Steele made it a point to say, hey, you met with the federal prosecutors 31 times. You met with them 4 times in the month of May 2023, prior to your first recorded interview on May 24th, 2023. In that interview, OTF Jam specifically asked if Durk had any conversations with him about sliding for Vaughn, and if Durk had any conversations with him about Quando Rondo and Lou Tim. He said no. So all of a sudden, he come in here and testify that Durk had a conversation about paying someone $500,000 to a mill to slide for Vaughn in a studio in Atlanta, Georgia. That right there creates reasonable doubt to discredit OTF Jam. And right now, I think Brian Steele should move to impeach him as a witness.
All right. So that is did not. All right. So like I said, he creates doubt. He is what you call the closer. They didn't even present their case yet, and Brian is already cooking. Guys, this guy's a miracle worker. When I tell you, like in the Diddy trial, Diddy had some points in the trial when he was just like this, but when Brian stood up, Diddy like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I met Denot at the Diddy trial as well. Shout out to Denot. He up at the trial. I knew he was going. You know, for sure. All right, let's see what Mo got to say.
Jacob Hester, known as Jam, takes the stand. Now, we're going to go over everything Jam said and what Brian Steele will cross-examine him on. But before we do that, I got to set the stage for you, because the moment Jam, you have to understand, when you walk into that courtroom for a couple of days as a juror, you got the judge, you got top-level feds, you got Drew Findling, Brian Steele. They're presenting all this evidence, testimony. None of it is like crystal clear. It's all different shades of gray. You're trying to figure out things. Then this guy comes in wearing the orange jumpsuit, takes the stand. They say, "How are you, sir?" He nods his head, "What up?" And then he starts admitting to the murder. And he says, yeah, I did these crimes that you guys are all here hearing all this evidence on. And it gets real intense. Jam is black and white. The first question they ask him, you know, what have you pled guilty to? And Jam didn't exactly know what crimes he had pled guilty to. He was like conspiracy for murder, conspiracy to kidnap resulting in death. It wasn't kidnap, it was stalk. Then he talked about murder, robbery. There was no murder involved. And he never actually mentioned murder for hire. Interesting. So Jam couldn't even really define the crimes that he was trying to plead guilty to, or that he has pled guilty to. What he was able to do quite clearly was point out the defendant when they asked him, hey, do you see anybody in the courtroom who you did this murder with and who helped you plan it? He said cold, low, dead tone, Durk. Who else? He identified the other defendants. Throughout the rest of his testimony, he would go on to put his head down. He'd just be shaking like this. And when he brought his head up, you could see the look of disbelief in his eye at the reality that was around him. Then he went into this testimony, started with his childhood and this gang that he was in and the rites of passage. But that stuff we can get into. The key points that I want to talk about is what he said about Durk, including the bounty. The centerpiece of this testimony, no doubt, was Jam testifying that about a month after he got out of prison, he's at this Atlanta studio and Durk's there and Dee Dee's there, Will, Duty Low, and he said maybe this guy Twin. Now, according to Jam, Durk starts talking about people are trolling Sly Vervon, and Durk basically let everybody in the studio know that if anybody catches Quando or Tim, they're going to be good. Prosecutor's like, hey, what do you mean by catch? Jam, kill. Prosecutor, what do you mean by good? Jam, you know, money-wise. Prosecutor's like, okay, so that means that they would be rewarded, and Jam's like, yeah, they'd be rewarded. What was the amount that they would be rewarded? Jam does not know, but he.
Let me stop right there. If somebody in there, a friend of mine, talking about if any one of y'all catch, and we know what that means, if he get caught slipping, you know, y'all will be good. I'm gonna be the one to raise my hand. Like, what do you mean good? Like, what you talking here? Not that I'm gonna do anything, but I'm not about to go slide for no money. I'm not doing that. But maybe that's what he was there for. You know what I'm saying? That's why he had him around. And then he also talked about afterwards, he put him in the Fed freestyle video. You see what I'm saying? That's his reward, you know, for the hit. Put you in the Fed freestyle video. Give you 10,000. He gave him 10,000, allegedly. Yeah, like, how are we good? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are we good? Like, what you mean, how we good? And also, I'm going to say this. We do know, this is not alleged, we do know that there was a shooting outside the Beverly Center, and it was very sloppy. And I knew during that shooting, I knew somebody was going to get caught because the car and everything was on video, license plate, everything, guys. So I knew they were going to get caught. You said 10,000 for a life in prison risk. I know, but no, Swim. He was also in the Fed freestyle video. Okay. He put him in the Fed freestyle video. Gave him 10,000. You know what I'm saying? You can take that 10,000, maybe go flip it. That ain't enough. I'm sorry, yo. This is ridiculous.
Did say that when Durk was like, hey, somebody got to catch him, another guy said, man, that's like half a ticket or $1 million. Who said half a ticket or $1 million? Jam doesn't testify to that. Jam.
Hold up. That's something I would say. I'm like, yo, that's like half a ticket or $1 million. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm leaning back. You know how like you know how you lean back after you said something that, like, yeah, you know, you lean back with it. Like, listen, that's me saying that. That's like half a ticket or $1 million. That's a ticket is $1 million. That's it. Yo, bro, that's either Durk. That's either gonna cost you half a ticket or $1 million. Because now I gotta go get a silencer. Okay. I gotta go get a silencer. See, they ain't even have a silencer. Everybody heard the damn shots. So now I gotta go get a silencer. I gotta get a Hollywood mask. You know, I gotta get a Hollywood mask to make myself Caucasian. I gotta do all this. I gotta do that. I gotta go get a throwaway car. What else I gotta get? I gotta get a throwaway car with no tracker in it. I gotta get some license plates. I gotta get somebody with a tractor trailer so I can put the car in the trailer and then they can take off. Because, you know, when you do the caper, you get away, you got to go somewhere remote and get in the tractor trailer and then get away like that. Yeah, that's going to cost a half a ticket because I got to, you know, you got to take that money and then get all the props for the caper. That's a caper you do by yourself. That's not a caper that you send multiple people with. That's a caper, that type of caper. I'm like Lil Durk. I don't need nobody. This is the type of caper where you do by yourself. And let me plan it. If I got to go around the country to stalk them, let me do that. catch him at the Beverly Center, you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught. You got children, Durk. You got children. You got things to lose now. So what? People are clowning you online on the internet. Not the internet, the internet. So what? Let me tell you something. Don't matter how much money you have, you can't take that mentality out of people, man. You can't. This is crazy. That's what I would have said. That's half a ticket or something, like 10,000. And I'm gonna be in a Fed freestyle video. Listen, I don't want to be in no video if I'm the shooter. I don't want to be in no video. Let me play the sideline. I don't want to be in no video, man. I don't want to be in no video. You know how much preparation this take? You got to go get a throwaway. You got to wait for the gun show loophole down in VA because, you know, they got their gun show. You got to wait for the gun show. You got to go pay the cash, get you a throwaway. You got to go get you a silencer. You get all that at the gun show. Because when you go to the gun show in Virginia, you pay the cash and it's not tracked. So essentially it's a throwaway. So you got to go, you got to cross country, you got to go to Virginia. You got to see when their gun shows are happening. This is a lot of preparation. You got to get you a Hollywood mask so you can change your race. You know what I'm saying? This is a lot of planning. If you go, because you know why I say that? Because there's cameras everywhere. You're not going to do this without being on camera, unless you know there's certain ways you go about it. Not that I know, but I'm just thinking with common sense. You don't go outside no Beverly Center. This is crazy. This is crazy, bro.
It does say that when somebody said half a ticket to $1 million, Durk said, man, the person who catches them won't have to worry about nothing. He going to be straight. Was Jam ever paid? Jam has not testified to being paid. That's the only thing they've said about the bounty. Then the other stuff they got.
Hold up. Time out. When somebody said, man, that's half a ticket to $1 million, he said, don't worry, y'all going to be straight. No. What you mean straight? What you mean straight? And I want the money now. Unless you give me half, and then I want the other one after it's over with. Or God forbid, ain't no more Lil Durk. It ain't gonna be no more Lil Durk because we ain't playing over here. Give me my money because everybody got to get paid. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy. I'm just telling you, giving you a hypothetical, because why would you do something like that and you only getting 10,000 in a video appearance?
To Durk was there's a Sprinter van. On the Sprinter van, this is when they're in Los Angeles and they're traveling around to do this murder, and Didi takes out his phone and he spans it. Allegedly, Jam says Durk was on FaceTime with Didi, and Didi says, pans the phone around to the guys in the Sprinter. Look, we're the Navy SEALs going on a mission. And where they were on their way to some type of hotel that Duty Low had told them that Quando Rondo is going to be at. I thought this part was interesting because allegedly.
Stop. Did y'all just hear that? I got to rewind it. We the Navy SEALs going on. No, you're not the Navy SEALs. No, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not the Navy SEALs. A Navy SEAL going on a mission? No, you're not. We're the Navy SEALs? Guys, they must have been getting high going there. You the Navy SEALs? As soon as you get out the car, you start shooting in broad daylight. Guys, some of the projectiles hit the gas. They could have blew up the gas station, guys. Hold up, let me go back.
There, Will, Duty Low, and he said maybe this guy Twin. Now, according to Jam, Durk starts talking about people are trolling Sly Vervon, and Durk basically let everybody in the studio know that if anybody catches Quando or Tim, they're going to be good. Prosecutor's like, hey, what do you mean by catch? Jam, kill. Prosecutor, what do you mean by good? Jam, money-wise. Prosecutor's like, okay, so that means that they would be rewarded, and Jam's like, yeah, they'd be rewarded. What was the amount that they would be rewarded? Jam does not know, but he did say that when Durk was like, hey, somebody got to catch him, another guy said, man, that's like half a ticket or $1 million. Who said half a ticket or $1 million? Jam doesn't testify to that. Jam does say that when somebody said half a ticket to $1 million, Durk said, man, the person who catches them won't have to worry about nothing. He going to be straight. Was Jam ever paid? Jam has not testified to being paid. That's the only thing they've said about the bounty. Then the other stuff that got into Durk was there's a Sprinter van. On the Sprinter van, this is when they're in Los Angeles and they're traveling around to do this murder. And Didi takes out his phone and he spans it. Allegedly, Jam says Durk was on FaceTime with Didi, and Didi says, pans the phone around to the guys in the Sprinter. Look, we're the Navy SEALs going on a mission. And
oh my God, guys, they get on FaceTime on their way to doing a caper. They get on FaceTime to show Durk, look at us, we're the Navy SEALs going on a mission. Yo, please take these people off the street, man. They need to get off the street. They need to get off the street, man. They're no more good. They're no more good. I hope that didn't happen. You about to go on a caper, broad daylight. Let me get on FaceTime. Look at us. We the Navy SEALs going on a mission. The Navy SEALs in a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter van. Oh my God.
Where they were on their way to some type of hotel that Duty Low had told them that Quando Rondo is going to be at. I thought this part was interesting because allegedly what they were told is that there was going to be this weed sale, but the weed dealer's not going to have any money and the weed dealer's just going to rob him. So they'd kill, the weed dealer would rob. What ended up happening? Well, when they got there, it was too hot. The police were there. And I saw a huge weakness there because, okay, so you didn't take the shot. Well, what about the weed dealer who was going to go rob him? Seems like he would have a problem, potential cross topic. So they don't do it that night. They go back to the hotel. And then eventually in the morning, they follow around the Escalade and shoot it up at the gas station. What actually touches Durk there? The only other pieces that got into Durk based other than what I just said, Jam says, I would travel with Durk and every city we would go to, Durk would tell Vonnie, give everybody guns. Why? Jam doesn't know why everybody gets guns. But as for Jam, Durk wants security and protection, and Durk knows that Jam is a violent individual who will use the gun. That the only other thing that they ever said about Durk and Jam that gets into this stuff is that one time there was a rapper and Jam saw the rapper with flashy jewelry and he told Durk, I'm gonna start robbing guys like this who come around us. And Durk's like, yeah, that's the Jam I've been waiting on. So why did Jam open fire and shoot at Quando Rondo outside the Beverly Center? Well, after coming home from jail for 12 years and having already committed multiple murders, he was at an Atlanta studio where Durk said, hey, they're saying slide for Von. Anybody who catches him going to be good. Durk one time told them, that's the Jam I've been waiting on. And the only other...
Hold up. He said, yeah, I'm about to start robbing him. That's the Jam I've been waiting for. Yo, he said when they were going the first time to go through the caper, right? He takes out his phone and was spanning the van saying, look at us, Durk. We the Navy SEALs going on a mission. These people, guys, I am convinced. I am convinced there's something in the smokes. I'm convinced of it. I'm convinced of it. That's why Texas is going hard on it. It do sound like a ghetto Tubi movie storyline. Yo, Swim, we the Navy SEALs. Yo, what would you do, Swim, if you about to go on a caper for me, right? I FaceTime you, Swim. Let me I want you to pan the Sprinter van. Let me see who the shooters are. Yeah, look at us. We the Navy SEALs. Oh, Lord have mercy. Yo, they need to go. They don't need to be on the street. They don't need to be on the street, fam. They don't need to be in the street. We the Navy SEALs. Look, they thinking they Navy SEALs. They what the
part is that he was on a phone call with Booney and Booney was on FaceTime and Durk was allegedly there and they gave him the order of
Booney. I got a cousin named Booney. What's his nickname? Booney. Booney. Now, shit, somebody named Booney. I mean, he with it. You know Booney down.
Okay, go and kill Quando. No forensic trail, no link. We're going to have to see if there's like a call or a FaceTime record or somebody to corroborate this concept that Durk gave the order through Booney on a FaceTime call that would be significant. But we have seen absolutely no evidence and no corroboration of that. Likewise, we haven't seen any evidence or any corroboration of all the other stuff that Jam testified about that kind of had nothing to do with this murder for hire. He went on and on about weekly gang meetings, and he's in the Black Disciples, and there's subsets, and Durk is in it, and you got to follow the rules. And if people disrespect your gang, you go back at them. And if somebody gives an order, you follow the order. But this is not a gang case. When the cross starts, they're going to be like, hey, you've admitted to multiple murders, 3, 4, we've lost count. You're facing life. And the only chance you have for a single day of freedom on this earth is putting this on Durk. You gave 30 plus interviews. Almost all of them are unrecorded. When did this story develop? How did it develop? Where's the corroboration about Booney giving an order while Durk is in FaceTime? Where's the corroboration about this meeting where allegedly Durk said anybody's going to be good? And even if so, is that murder for hire? I think definitionally saying everybody's going to be good, never identifying a monetary amount, never paying the bounty. This guy gets on a flight the same day they tell him he gets some order, he never gets paid, but he murder for hire. The defense is going to.
I mean, I understand why. I understand why, because he's around a millionaire and he thinking he gonna get some type of monetary value because he know that Durk is, when he say you good, that means he thinking Durk is really gonna make him good. That's what he thought. You have to get in the minds of these stupid criminals. You can't, when you looking at this, you gotta look at it with an open mind. You have to get into this in the mind of a criminal. Like I know what good mean, but for me personally, I'm like, yo, Durk, I need to know what good mean. You know what I'm saying? And somebody said a half a ticket. Durk ain't giving nobody no half a ticket, yo. He don't have that much money to give nobody a half a ticket. I'm sorry, he don't. He don't. He don't have that much to give nobody a half a ticket or a ticket. But see, this is like their minds are so into the gangster thing. It sound good, a ticket. It sound good. They just sitting there talking. All right, so that's Mo. He also have this update.
Jam takes the stand. Now, we're going to go over everything Jam said and what Brian Steele will cross-examine him on. But before we do that, I got to set the stage for you, because the moment Jam, you have to understand, when you walk into on the first day of Jam's testimony, Brian Steele was doing Brian Steele things. He didn't get a chance to cross Jam yet, but he dropped the word that Brian Steele tends to drop. Every prosecutor dreads it: mistrial. Twice in one afternoon, the motion for the mistrial came up. Stay with me. The judge denied the mistrial motion. And that often happens the first time, but he did give a warning to prosecutors that sets the scene going forward. So before the jury walked in the morning, the defense warned the judge out loud on the record that, hey, if one of these cooperating witnesses starts talking about crimes that nobody here is charged with, that's going to be a mistrial. And the judge said, yeah, no gratuitous pot shots. You can't go up there, take the stand, and just start mentioning crimes from years and years and years to get the jury to feel like, oh my God, these are terrible people. Well, later that day, we get OTF Jam on the stand. The jury is sitting there listening. The prosecutor asks Jam, did Durk encourage you to be aggressive? Give us an example. And this is where Jam brings up this issue in Miami. There's a guy hanging around the crew. Turns out he's one of Tory Lane's artists. And Jam says, I'm going to start robbing these goofies. They got all this jewelry. I ain't got no jewelry. And Durk's alleged response, according to Jam, that's what I'm talking about. That's the Jam I've been waiting on. So you're in front of the jury. It's a murder for hire trial where nobody is charged with robbing anyone. Jam has already gone out there and started his testimony saying, oh yeah, I'm pleading guilty to robbery. Here's the rule, plain and simple. If the government wants the jury to hear about other bad stuff that Jam did, like a robbery because Durk told him to, you have to give notice ahead of time in writing so that the defense can be prepared. Ask their client, hey, Durk, did you tell Jam to do a robbery? We need to be prepared to cross him on this. There was no notice given. They spent months and months and months preparing this case.
See, that's the thing here. When you, what's up, Rose Crans? What's going on with you? Let me see. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so everybody know when you get the trial, right, there should not be no surprises on what's going to happen, on how the defendant or the person on the stand is going to get questioned, right? Everybody has to know everything is agreed upon. You don't know how they're going to question, but you know where the questioning is going to come from. But they're saying that there was a surprise in court. That's a no-no. He's paying too much money for to be having surprises up in court, but sometimes it happens. But Brian still addressed that accordingly. So that's all he can do. And so, yeah, that's all he can do. But what I can say is we already know how this goes. I'm going to let you hear this other guy in a second, you know, the trap lore guy. I don't particularly, like I said, like listening to him, but he was there. And I want to get different perspectives just to let you guys know before we listen to him, because we already listened to the other lady. I want to see if we can get different perspectives because I'm not in the courtroom. I wanted to come out to LA to view the trial, but I couldn't. I got, you know, take care of my mother. But I wish I could have been out there, and I would have had my notebook and everything, guys. But I have to, unfortunately, you know, with federal cases, there's no cameras in the courtroom. So I you know what I was thinking? I was like, damn, I wonder if this trial going to be in New York, if they're going to move it across the country. But no, I should have known that because, you know, the federal place out in California, that's where the jurisdiction is. But yeah, so I'm just listening to different perspectives here. That's what we're doing to try to get a feel. And but I wish I was there. And you know, because here's the thing, it might look bad right now, right? It does look bad, especially you have this guy on the stand. He was a part of the crew. As soon as he got on the stage, he in the shooting out front of Beverly Center, he said he was the third shooter. So that's bad. And he pointed out Durk. But Brian Steele is cross-examining him. Brian Steele, I've seen him in work, guys, at the Diddy trial firsthand. He does a very good job poking holes in the case and creating doubt. So that's what it looked like he's trying to do now. So, but yeah, so this is, unfortunately, I have to do these like end day recaps because I'm not there. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that. Let's finish up with Mo, and then I'll go to the other guy.
Talking about what the testimony was going to be. And this story about, oh, I was in Miami and I told Durk I'm going to rob this dude. And he's like, yeah, I've been waiting on it. That's what I'm talking about. Never came up. So the defense never got to ask a single juror about that in their questioning for the setting the jury. It never came up in opening statements. Steele goes up there and he tells the judge, look, and they're bringing in stuff about, oh, Durk is directing a robbery. This case isn't about a robbery. Nobody gave us notice that what we're being charged with is telling Jam to go rob people. This is something that the prosecution knew would inflame the jury, that they wouldn't be allowed to do it, and they did it anyway. The judge said, look, strike the testimony. I'm going to tell the jury, disregard the whole Miami story. These men are on trial for what the charges are, not any.
All right, stop right there. So that was good that they got that stricken from the record. The problem is, though, the jury cannot unhear that. That's the problem. That's why I think Brian Steele went for another mistrial. Now, even though Brian Steele is not going to be granted a mistrial, but he still put it on the record just in case if Durk has to go in the appeals process down the line. So he still have to put that on the record. So good job for Brian Steele for putting it on the record. And so, yeah, so that's why he did that. But yeah, the jury can't unhear that. It's unfortunate. Jury can't unhear it, man. You said the jury is tainted. Well, that was because the defense, let me tell you something, these lawyers, especially Drew Finley and Brian Steele and the other attorneys, they're very meticulous to detail. They don't play around. This is why they get so much money. That surprise that slipped to the jury today, that'll be taken up at a later date, put it that way. If he blows trial here.
Type of robbery in Miami. Then he turned to the prosecutors and said, look, you should have told them if you were going to bring up some type of Miami robbery, and this should serve as a warning to you to not do it again. Week one, government's on warning. You can bet Brian Steele is going to be trying to build that up brick by brick. On the first day of Jam.
All right. He's right about that. He is going to try to build it up brick by brick. He is going to do it. You don't want to give somebody like Brian Steele ammunition because he already got it. You said that's my discrepancy when they strike testimonies to how can you right? You can't unhear it. And guess what? I can't say for sure. I think it's a strategy to get that in there. It was a strategy. It's unfortunate, bro. You only thing you can ask for is for the kid to get a fair trial. That's it. Whether he's guilty or not, the evidence has to prove the guilt, right? He could have orchestrated all of this, right? But the evidence has to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. That's why we're here. The evidence has to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. I wish I was there though, but the evidence has to prove beyond reasonable doubt. The reason why it's like that, the reason why they have the highest burden, so innocent people won't go to jail. And we know that the system is not perfect and innocent people do go away. One of those cases, the reason why I follow these cases so much, it happened to a friend of mine. He got accused of something that he didn't do. And he lost 5 years of his life because of it, fighting this case. And Khalif Browder, you might have heard about the Khalif Browder story out of New York City. He was sitting on Rikers Island for something that he didn't do. And he got victimized while he was in custody. And he ended up taking his life. He was on the Oprah show and everything else, gaining all this notoriety. But you know, once you go through something traumatic like that, everybody can't bounce back. And he was victimized in there. So, so whether like you think Durk did it or not, the evidence still has to prove it beyond reasonable doubt. You know what I'm saying? Regardless of who it is. And I heard that you remember the Brian Koberger. You guys remember Brian Koberger? He's getting ready to go back to court. I think he's going back to court in, let me see, August, September. I think September, October. Because he said that he was coerced into completing guilty. And when he pled guilty, that he avoided the death penalty. But I think that he had met with somebody and they said, bro, you should have taken this to court because I don't think they got you. I don't think they got you on this because they said in the evidence that they have his DNA on the scene. I don't think they do. And I think he met with somebody. They said, bro, you need to go back to court on this one. So you remember that case. So that's what I'm saying. You say, have I been working out? No, I cut back on the food, but I don't know how it's working. Cutting back. Because you know, a lot of things have been recalled, and I believe I got sick over some food. I believe I did. Dude, I was in the bed for a whole week sick. And it was over the food, actually. You know, all these recalls going on. Just we're gonna go back to this. When you're going to get beef, right? Make sure it's grass fed and make sure it's coming from one of the locals in your area. Now, that's going to cost you a lot more money, but it's better to be on the safe side. I'm just telling you this because I got sick. So that's just, I'm going to tell you that right there. And so, yeah, I didn't have the stomach thing what people were having. I didn't have the stomach problem. But what I had, like, what do you call it? It's like dehydration and headaches. And I heard it was from what I ate. That's what somebody told me. Doctor told me that. He said, you must have had some bad beef. He said, what did you have recently? I told him. He said, that's what it was. He said, throw it out. He said, it's bad. And he told me, he said, make sure it's grass fed and make sure you get it from your local farmers. That's what he said. It's going to cost you more, but you got to do it like that. So I'm just letting y'all know. Let me see. What else we got? That's Mo. All right. Well, let's go to this guy. Now, this guy here, I don't know if you guys know, this is Trap Lord Ross. He has been getting a lot of flack out there. He's been covering this situation for a long time. He's done documentaries on it. And so he's out there. He has security out there, but they've been getting at him out there. They have been. So let's hear what he has to say. I'm just trying to get a perspective from everybody.
I'm here outside the courthouse. Not too many Free Durk fans out here. I don't know. Maybe they was sleeping in today. No Free Durk fans that I can see. But basically, there was a very crazy update, and what ended up happening was basically OTF Jam was back on the stand for the whole first half of the day. He ended up saying some pretty crazy comments, especially at the end. So I'm going to start at the end and work backwards. But they basically asked Jam. They said, "Why did you choose to cooperate? What was?"
No, I really was sick because of it. I really was. I'm not lying to you. I really was.
Your motivation for this? Why did you turn on Lil Durk? And he basically said, I was mad at Lil Durk for putting me in that situation, and I'm still mad at him now. He said that Vonnie seemed like a goofy to me. I did something that I know I shouldn't have done, and the last time I did something with people that I didn't know, I did 12 years for it. I was doing this for Durk's selfish reasons. Maybe Cuz and Dee Dee had a reason to do it. I didn't have no relationship with Von. I basically didn't know a whole bunch of these people that were sent on the hit. He basically said, I feel like Durk sent me on selfish bullshit. He said, I can't forget all the support that Durk gave me, especially when I was locked up. I can never forget that. I still got love for him. But he says, look, I know how it looks now, but I still got for him. Blood was there for me. I can't forget that. And I feel bad for telling. But at the same time, I still love him, but I don't respect him. He said that he...
Let me stop right there. Nobody can really send you on a mission unless you go on a mission. Okay, nobody told him to go on that mission. Now, in his mind, he's probably thinking that he was going to be good, like he was going to get some type of compensation. I get it, but he made the decision ultimately to go out in front of outside the Beverly Center and do what he did in broad daylight. Durk didn't put a gun to his head and tell him to go do it now. So that if I'm the jury, I'm thinking that. Do you know what I'm thinking right now? If I'm the jury, he's up there just to save his ass for him not to get life. That's what I'm thinking. And also I'm thinking that he met with them how many times, and only a few of those occasions were recorded. Yeah.
He could be killed for his testimony for cooperating. And then he also kind of pointed out a couple of things that really just motivated him, that why in this occasion did he decide to tell? He explained there were multiple reasons. He said he felt like the hit was done sloppy. It was done with people who shouldn't have been there. Obviously, he said that he thought Vonnie was a goofy. And he said there's a big difference between doing something to somebody that you don't like. But he said in this case, he felt like Lil Pab ain't have nothing to do with it. He said he felt like an innocent man got killed, and it weighed heavily on him. He wanted to get it off his chest. He said he didn't think it was guaranteed that he would get caught, but he thought about it. He thought it was hot. He said, why do we go and do this in LA with all them rich people and actors around? He said that was a bad place to do a hit. So the prosecutors actually asked him, they said, look, you testified and you put...
I agree with them. That I agree with. It is a bad place to do a hit. Broad daylight and out near the Beverly Center. I've been out there. There's no way in the hell I would have did it out there. No way. Yeah, let me read you. Really? Let me see. You said when the situation happened, I was a block away at work. I used to walk that to that gas station sometimes on my lunch break to get a small Modelo can of beer. Hey, you know what I'm saying? As long as it's cold. He said, when I'm working on the Metro Line Purple extension. So you were a block away when this happened. So think about that. What's up, old boy? Think about that for a second. These idiots out there doing what they're doing, you could have got caught up in it for no reason. You said, I don't know, Max. Remember, Durk has voice notes, text messages, rap lyrics, and payments from his credit card. Yeah. I know. I'm curious to see how his lawyers are going to deal with that. You said on credit card for the shooters. Jesus Christ. Don't anybody do anything in cash no more? Oh my God. Yeah, you talking about the Amex. They talked about that the other day, the Amex charges. Oh my God. Shit.
Pled guilty for your role in the LA shooting as well as 2 other murders. You know, what are you hoping for from this? He said, well, I'm hoping for a reduction in my sentence, but he made it clear there's been no promises made. He's not getting out. I'm not going to lie to you, Jam having 3 bodies, he probably shouldn't be out here walking around straight after this.
He will see the light of day again, especially if they get a conviction. He will see the light of day again. I don't know if they're going to give him 20 years, 25 years, whatever they agree. Well, he didn't agree to a number yet, but he's not going to get life. Yeah, Middle Beverly Hills, Cedars-Sinai Hospital right there. And you said the Laurie's Prime Rib Restaurant. I was around there. I had when I came out there, I was around there. You said the world already turned digital, Glenn. You said plus his co-defendant, so shoot. Bro, what the fuck? Bro. So let me ask you guys. Let's be real. He's cooked. Y'all think he's cooked? I mean, we're still gonna do our our day in updates because we got one more for tomorrow, and then next week. Because I think they said this trial may go to the 14th, September 14th, guys. It might go that long. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this is a cook situation? Should he have taken a deal? Should he have pled guilty, or is this something you take to trial? We'll see. We'll see.
But he basically said he pled guilty with the 2 other murders, and you know, he just basically wanted to get it all off his chest. And he said it was weighing heavily on me what happened to Lil Pav, and he saw an opportunity and he took it. So it was some pretty crazy testimony. That last part when they kind of broke, you know, he said it straight out of his mouth. He said, I still got love for Durk and I can't forget what he did for me, but he put me in a bad situation with some goofies. It was selfish. And
yo, I just thought about that. He does have the RICO. Oh my God. I don't know how you're gonna do this. Only it'll if he's truly innocent, God will have to intervene. He got to stay praying. If he literally didn't tell them to do this, that's the only thing I can tell you. That this is an uphill battle he has.
And I'm not rocking with it. So that was pretty crazy, but there was a whole lot of other crazy testimony that Jam put across, and I'm going to tell you all about it in different videos. So stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated on everything. And yeah, it's going to be a crazy day. I think he's going to.
Yeah, you're right. I was looking at the charges earlier. He has to beat all 4. He has to run the table. Without corroborating either way. I think he will win on appeal on this one, but the RICO case, I don't know. Yeah, you talking. That's what everybody's saying. They're like, bro, he has another case. They trying to pin on Durk. You're right. Everybody's telling me that he could get off of this because you do need the corroborating evidence, but they're saying he got another case coming. Damn, they want him out the streets. They do. I feel like them folks know something, but they got to prove it. Damn, that's crazy. Yeah, he does. I was just thinking that. I was reading the article earlier. He does. Yeah, for his brother D thing. Yep.
Be up there all day, maybe even into tomorrow. So we just got some crazy new information about how it went down when Jam got arrested and decided to start cooperating with the FBI. So apparently he was arrested in 2023 for something completely unrelated. He was pulled over in a car that apparently had a gun in it while he was still on parole from that attempted murder case that he just got out after serving 12 years on. And he basically said that at that point he decided to talk to the FBI. He wanted to get it off of his chest. The Lil Pav murder was weighing on him. He felt like Pav was an innocent man and that he'd been sent on a dummy mission with some goofies by Durk for selfish reasons. And he said he saw an opportunity to get out of the situation. What was very interesting is when he got arrested, he basically wrote a handwritten note to the FBI. So what he claimed is that he said that he was allowed to make a phone call. He said the official phone wasn't there, or it wasn't working. So they said, look, we'll let you make a supervised recorded call on your cell phone. But like, that's what we're going to have to do. We'll allow you that. So he made a call, and then he told the cops, hey, can I have a bit of paper to write down a phone number? They said, sure. But he didn't write down a phone number. He wrote down a handwritten note which said this exactly. It just said, I know about murders. I don't want to talk on camera. I know a lot. So he gave that handwritten note to an arresting officer. That basically was then, worked its way up the chain to the FBI. And the prosecutors asked him, they said, why didn't you want to be on camera? Obviously, this is going to be a big controversial thing when it comes to Brian Steele. Obviously, he was absolutely clapping back. I believe it was yesterday, talking about why weren't all of these interviews recorded? You spoke to Jam 30, 40 times. You barely recorded any of those interviews. Well, this is kind of a slap in the face to Brian Steele, because Jam said specifically, I don't want to be on no camera. And they said, why didn't you want to be on no camera? Now, this is crazy. All right. He said, well, I didn't want to be on camera because a lot of people have been getting exposed on their body cams doing embarrassing shit. They be getting exposed on social media for telling on the body cam, snitching, crying, which is obviously a reference to a very infamous Chicago video where, one of the shorties from over there was kind of apparently caught on a case and he was bawling out, crying to the cops. And there's been a lot of rumors about whether that case was connected to the Jam case, whether that kid that was crying in the body cam footage might have had a dirty gun that Jam had used in a different murder. So Jam made direct reference to that. As I would have said in my previous video, Jam made it clear. He said, look, he was mad at Lil Durk for putting him in that situation. Even though Durk did a lot for him, he basically said he's still mad at him. He put me in a situation with goofies. He didn't trust Vonnie. He didn't know why he'd been put in that situation.
Only thing I can say for that is he put himself in a situation. He got to own up to it. Durk didn't put him in that situation. He agreed to do it. He didn't have to do it. But see, if he didn't do it, I guess he felt like he wasn't going to be hanging around as close to Durk. You see what I'm saying? And he wouldn't be getting the benefits to be hanging around Durk. So I guess he felt compelled to do it that way. But outside of Beverly Center, no, bro. You should have just said, he should have said this a no-go. All he had to say was too many cops around or something. He could have made something up. But obviously he was with two other people plus the driver. I don't know. Are they gonna? No, it was three of them. I don't know, man. I don't think like Durk didn't put a gun to him, but I mean, I get why he was there. Like he's trying to get some type of benefit off of it, but it didn't pay off
with him. And basically that's why he decided to make that decision and speak to the FBI. Who knows what sort of time he's going to get? I mean, allegedly, not even allegedly, he has admitted to 3 murders and, allegedly there's more. So he definitely getting some serious years. I can't imagine them just letting him go. But they made it very clear. He's not been offered a deal. They've not promised him no time. He's not getting out of everything. He basically is leaving it in God's hands and cooperating. And he didn't say I cooperated to get out of time. He said, I felt bad about this. It was weighing on my heart and Pab was an innocent man. So a lot of the Durk fans have been saying there's no evidence, no one was ever paid, there's nothing. But it turns out apparently Durk might have actually finessed all of the hitmen, allegedly, out of any money. So we heard yesterday that there was a conversation in a studio where Durk basically said to a bunch of alleged OTF members, like, look, anybody that kills Quando or Lil Tim, you're going to be straight. And somebody said, are we talking like half a ticket or $1 million? And Durk just said, hey, you're going to be straight. You ain't going to have to worry about nothing. So basically, apparently all these hitters that got involved.
Listen. You're going to have to at least promise me some money or give me half of it. Yeah, I heard he was really a shooter, fam. He really was. And that's why Durk had him around, right? But the thing is, even he said it, damn, outside of Beverly saying this is not the right situation here. He should have, maybe Durk was relying on him to use his judgment. He's supposed to be the hitter. Like, can we get this or not? No, we can't. Mission aborted. But he said that, I couldn't believe this, guys. If you just came in, he said that when they were on their way the first time to try to get Quando Rondo, they couldn't get him because they said the block was too high, too many cops out there. But he said they were in a Sprinter van and he was doing like this. Durk hit him up on FaceTime. They were like this. We're the Navy SEALs going on a mission. Panning the Sprinter van, saying we're the Navy SEALs going on a mission. What the fuck? They liken themselves to Navy SEALs. It's ridiculous. You said, yeah, Durk said on his song that, let me highlight it. You said, yeah, Durk selling the song that Jam does the murders and he pays him $50K. Yo, he had this song called Fed Freestyle. Like afterwards, he put Jam in that video and gave him 10,000. I guess that was his compensation. Let me put you in the Fed Freestyle video and give you 10,000. That's my main hitter. It's crazy, man. What he gonna do with that after he don't kill somebody? It's ridiculous. And then they said, look, hold up, it gets better. When they found out they didn't kill Quando Rondo, because that's who Durk wanted. He wanted Quando Rondo. But then Lil Pap, he's like, well, we killed Lil Pap. And he said Durk was like this. That's cool. That's cool. I like that too. I like that y'all did that too. Just don't worry. No worries. You know, you didn't get Rondo, but you got him though, because he was clowning too. What the fuck? Bro, they living on a different timeline. I'm just telling you all this. They're in a movie. They're in a movie. Dude, they're in a movie. They're in a movie. And what is Kanye West? Hold on, let me show y'all this. If y'all just hold on. And here's one thing did not show. This is Durk's wife, India Royale, showing up.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, India. You look great.
Well, that was him at the Diddy's. Where is he got the one of Kanye? Yeah, that was Kanye showing up.
Look at Kanye West, bro. Kanye West pulling up to the Durk trial. Shout out to Kanye West. Shout out to Kanye West.
Hi, yay.
The system broken, the schools closed, the prisons open. Look at Kanye West.
This is him with Durk's father.
Watch who you call your homie.
That's him with Durk's father. And Durk's father, he did a lot of time too. And now his son is like, this is crazy.
Involved in this hit went and did their thing. It sounds like nobody ever got paid. OTF Jam said he never got paid anything by Durk, even though he was definitely expecting something. As far as the murder, he says he was never paid anything. But what is interesting is that he said, all right, because Brian Steele was licking his lips thinking, oh, he didn't get paid. This is going to be lit. But then the feds basically said, but you were expecting something, right? Because that conversation in the studio, people talking about meal tickets and Durk saying you ain't going to have to worry about nothing. He was like, yeah. And then they said, Jam basically said, look, I was never a rapper. I'd never dropped a verse in my life. And then within a few months of the murder, I was recording my first song, the Federal Freestyle. I got paid $10K for that. And it was on the...
All right, stop. Look, he ain't even a rapper. You ain't got to be a rapper. You put in a hit. Just talk about it. That's all you got to do. Just talk about the hit. And, you know, let me give you 10,000 for the Federal Freestyle. Why can't it be state freestyle federal? Because they going to the feds. Yo, I can't make this up, yo. What's up, Medea? Yo, oh, bro. So what do you think they do afterwards? They're not going to go to a safe house and just lay low. Let's go to an In-N-Out burger because we hungry. What the? and still had the same shoes on from the caper. You said Dirt was $1 million worth of game with $1 million in cash, sitting at the table with some shooters behind him. Oh Lord, I'm telling you, they're on a different timeline. They're in a movie. He already he said he about to find himself in the feds. There's too many people talking. But here's the thing. Let me ask you this. I mean, Brian Steele, you think he can work? I've seen him. You think he can work some magic? It's still up to the jury. The jury is the most powerful people in the courtroom. Even the judge admitted that. Because they said today, the judge say, anytime the jury comes in, y'all stand up because the jury is above me. That's what the judge said to the people. Kanye West wouldn't stand up for the jury. That's what he gonna say it. But yeah, the jury is the most important people in the courtroom. They decide. They the ones that hear the case and deliberate. The judge is not deliberating. This is not a bench trial. Oh my God. He said, brother man on the stand has too much to, ooh, Lord. Damn, he got too much to say. He said he was the third shooter. You said they're going to play that to the jury, the $1 million worth of game episode. That was, oh, really? Bruh. You said they were smelling bad. I heard they didn't have change of clothes, just got on the plane.
OTF Loyal Bros album. Okay, I think it was Loyal Bros 2. Obviously, I've said before that this album is like the ultimate self-snitching album. It's basically got back-to-back confessions. Booney Mo got a song on there called They Know That We Did It. All right, so that's what was going on. Okay, he got his 10K, but apparently everyone was getting finessed. Apparently, two of the other shooters that were there, they were basically on Vonnie's ass talking about when we're going to get paid at the In-N-Out. And apparently Vonnie gave him the slip. He basically put him on the phone with Durk and said, basically, they was asking, yo, Vonnie, are you going to straighten out the money? They got Durk on a FaceTime and he said, I got them. They're going to be straight. And then they left. So I don't know if Durk ever paid him anything after that. It sounds like Durk might have inferred that people was going to get $500,000 to $1 million for killing Quando. And then basically he just didn't give nobody nothing afterwards. Maybe he thought that was going to be slick. And like, oh, if I promise hitmen something and don't pay them, then are they going to be able to get me? I'm not sure that's really going to fly. But I'm sure if anybody is going to make that point well, it's going to be Brian Steele. But that was pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. Jam getting 10K to appear on that project definitely was interesting. I thought they were going to play the federal freestyle. They didn't play it. They just showed it. They showed the cover art for Loyal Bros 2. And I ain't going to lie, the Loyal Bros 2 cover art was looking sus too. It's just 5 hooded masked individuals. And you thinking, wait a minute, isn't that exactly what was sent to go and kill Lil Pab? So that wasn't really a great look either. I'm not sure if too many people picked up on that. But yeah, you know, this whole thing of the hitmen being paid, and obviously it wasn't mentioned, but even there was a lyric that was shown earlier. You know, Brian Steele lied and said it was Quando when it wasn't. It was another Savannah rapper. But that song where they said, oh, shout out Lil Tim, I mean King Tim, it wasn't Quando. Brian was wrong. But what they didn't draw attention to is elsewhere. He basically said, oh, I heard there's a meal ticket. And obviously the rumor was it was going around pretty much within weeks of Von's death that there was $1 million bounty on Quando's head. So arguably that's been proven to be true, but not many people have pointed that out yet. But anyway, that's my opinion. I'll be back with some more updates for you guys soon. Oh my gosh, so I just heard something crazy in the courthouse about Durk. So Jam, he's on the stand. He's going crazy up there. When Durk allegedly was on FaceTime with him before the hit, Durk told Jam, hey, go crazy. Well, I guess he wasn't expecting him to go this crazy, but allegedly Jam was pissed off about what was going on, you know, with the hit. He felt like Pab was an innocent man. He felt like he had been sent on a dummy crash out mission. He didn't know Von like that. He wasn't part of the beef. He was frustrated and he felt, you know, low key pissed off with Durk that he had sent him on the hit. He actually allegedly FaceTimed Durk to confront him about this. And he said that Durk answered and he was at his crib with OTF C3, all right? And he said, I asked Blood. He said, I said to Durk, like, out of 1 million people you could have sent on this mission, he said, I just did 12 years. Why you have
to... Wait. Somebody's name is OTF C3. Yo, they on a different timeline, bro. That's the only thing I could tell you. OTF C3. He sound like something. OTF C3. Bro. This is crazy. You said they definitely on a different timeline. Back in the day, the shooters didn't talk. Yeah, but they making freestyles talking about what they're doing. Golly, there's cameras everywhere. They didn't even get a Hollywood mask they didn't even do nothing like that. You know, those Hollywood masks, it literally could turn you into a different person. They didn't have time to think. They had to get on a plane, no change of clothes. You hear me? Oh.
To send me on that dummy mission with a bunch of people I didn't know. And apparently Durk cut Jam off. He didn't even let him finish. And apparently Durk just responded with a smile. He said, I love you, Jam. He said, y'all didn't hit Quando, but you hit Pab. Pab counts. He was on the internet saying he was smoking on Von. And he can't say that no more. And he was just smiling. He said Pab had been disrespectful about Von's death. And
he said, y'all didn't hit Quando, but Pab counts. You know what they used to do? And I'm going to tell you this. Academics, he was a big part of this. Now, why do I say that? They used to keep score sheets back in the day, if you don't remember. You remember the whole Chicago scene? They were like, oh, what's his name up on the scorecards right now? They used to keep scores. So I guess he felt like he was down on the score sheets, but that's why he say Lil Pab counts. He counts. This is crazy. Wait a minute. Oh boy, whoa. You said the jurors got one half black person and the rest are Hispanic and white, and they all are middle-aged, older folks. Okay. Damn. Oh Lord.
Basically, it counts. That's apparently what he said. And Durk was smiling at him on FaceTime while that was going on. And what's crazy is Pab later said the reason why he told is...
Hold up, my dad. What if I told you, yeah, my dad, don't worry about it. That counts. You know what I'm saying? You good. And my dad gonna be like, where my ticket at? You where my half a ticket or a ticket at? Don't worry, my dad, I'm gonna put you and old boy in the federal freestyle. Give you 10,000. This is crazy. It's almost like this is unbelievable. I don't believe this, but it's crazy.
Because he felt like this whole thing was weighing on his conscience. They killed an innocent man. Pab ain't have nothing to do with nothing, but Lil Durk allegedly didn't see it that way. Now, look, if you've seen the long 4-hour documentary I did probably like 2-3 years ago now, I've known about this case for a very long time. I did a documentary called Demon Slayers, all about King Von and Lil Tim and all of the things that have been going down in Savannah, Georgia before this happened. If you've seen that, you'll know that no disrespect to Lil Pab or his family, but, you know, he was on a Clubhouse call with OTF members dissing them. He put up a few tweets that were kind of making fun of King Von, and he was standing on business with the Rolling 60s in Savannah, Georgia. He had his own RICO case that he was going to be facing. If Pab was still alive, he might have been facing these RICO charges to do with a car theft ring. That's no disrespect. That's not to say that he deserved it. He wasn't there when Von got killed, and this didn't sit right with Jam. Apparently, basically, Jam kind of thought, like, this isn't what I called about. He was surprised that Durk was talking so hot on that phone. He said, I called to ask why he put me in a situation with goofy dudes that I didn't know. And then he just starts talking about, yeah, I love you. Like, you didn't hit Quando, you hit Pab, it counts. He was on the internet saying he smoked. So he was just like, what the hell? Like, I didn't understand. He said, I wasn't close enough to Flucker to be doing that with him. He sent me out there with goofies that I didn't know. He said, I just wasn't feeling it. He said that he basically kind of just went along with it. He said, yeah, he agreed with what Durk said about Pab and got off the phone. And that was it. And he said, I didn't get no payment for this. I just thought, what the hell? Like, this is just nonsense. So, yeah, I think Lil Durk was obviously happy about what went down. But the way Pab saw it, he'd been roped into killing an innocent man. And obviously, he didn't even know he was there to kill Quando until he'd arrived in California. So he said that he no longer respects Durk. All right, so I just see Kanye for the first time. I just see Ye in the courthouse, okay? And basically, it was pretty crazy to see Ye in the flesh. He kind of walked in late. He wasn't there for the very start, but it seems like they low-key be treating the celebrities like VIPs in court, because Machine Gun Kelly was able to cut past all of the media a couple of days ago. Ye managed to get in, even though there was a giant line and he was late. You know what I'm saying? They was making it work for Ye. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Ye stared me down. He looked over to me and just stared me down for an extended period. He looked at me for longer than Durk did when Durk stared me down. I'm not going to lie. I was a little bit like, I'm really in the courthouse getting pressed and intimidated by.
Now, I know you guys are like, well, why would Kanye be staring him down? Where am I at? All right, I'm back. The reason why Kanye is staring at him, this guy gets a lot of views on this topic. He gets a lot of views. He's done documentaries that got 2, 3, 4, 5 million views pop. So a lot of people know who this guy is here, and maybe Kanye recognized him. But he claims that Kanye was staring him up and down. So I don't know.
Kanye West right now. This is straight mind games, okay? Now, what was interesting is he looked down for a lot of the testimony. OTF Jam was literally on the stand. We got Durk, Jam, Ye, me, all in the same room at the same time. It was surreal. Now, one thing I will say, and I'm going to criticize.
But what I want to tell this guy is this. He's in LA. He need to be careful. He need to be careful because, you know, he said, well, none of Durk's supporters were there today. He need to be careful, man. You got crash out dummies out here. He need to be careful. He need to be careful, bro. This one, he need to be careful. He said Durk's, yesterday he said Durk publicist or something allegedly came up to him and said to delete some stuff. So yeah, he need to be careful. He got a bodyguard, but you got crash out dummies that do it in broad daylight. They don't care who you are or whatever the case is. I told you these people on a different timeline.
Criticize Ye for this, okay? Every time the jury enters and leaves the room, you have to stand. You have to rise for the jury and the judge. When the judge comes in on his own, you have to rise for the judge. And the judge made it very clear that the jury is actually above him when it comes to justice. It's the jury that are making the decision. So the judge, as well as everybody else, rises for the jury to show respect for the importance of the jury's role. You know who didn't rise for the jury? Kanye West. He didn't rise for the jury. He wasn't respecting the jury. He wasn't respecting the justice process. And I'll be honest, I don't respect that. I thought that was very disrespectful. I thought that was just not proper.
He don't understand. He needs to be careful. He needs to be careful, man. I'm just telling you, bro. Because they won't do it out here in front of the courthouse. They'll follow him to where he is, and they'll watch him, and they'll get him. Let me tell you something. It could be people in his hotel that are working in the hotel. It could be anybody. He needs to be careful, bro. He's in a different he's in dangerous territory. It's beautiful out there. I've been there. But you still gotta respect it. You still gotta respect it now. They got the shooters. No, I'm dead serious. No, worse than shooters, Medea. They got crash outs. Crash outs. You know? So listen, he got to, because they already it's bad. They're threatening him in the comments. I don't agree with it. I mean, just let him, you know, whatever. But I just, you know. You said there's a new update. Who's giving the update? Oh boy. Hold on, let me check. Okay. Trap lore. I was just watching his latest video. Yeah, that's what we were just watching, his latest video. Where did he give the update at? Which social media account? Because they should be outside the courtroom now. Because it's like it's 6:08 down out there. So the court should be over by now. That's what I was waiting on. You said the third post on IG. Okay, let me check. Instagram. Okay, I'll check there. Then I'm gonna go to academics, see what he's talking about. Is it on his Instagram Trap Laura Ross account? The last 5 posts on it. Okay. All right, cool. I'm just waiting for it to load up. Yeah, I thought they should be giving updates by now because court is over. Sometime he'll wait till he get back to wherever he's staying, which I totally agree with. He need to just be waiting. But because the people out there, they're already messing with him. They're already like on him right now. So he got to be extra careful. At least I would be. But he do got security. But that don't always work. He got one security guard. That don't always work. Don't always work, man. Let me see what academics talking about.
Sister and for whatever reason, this is what he said to me. This is what he said.
I'll come back to that. Let me see. You said his last 5 posts? All right.
Okay, and basically it was pretty crazy to see Ye in the flesh. He kind of walked in late. He wasn't there for the very start, but it seems like they low-key be treating the celebrities like VIPs in court because Machine Gun Kelly was able to cut past all of the media. All right, so I'm back outside the courthouse, man.
That was 37 minutes.
Okay, so one of the alleged lies that apparently was told by OTF Jam that was getting called out by Brian Steele apparently related to his family and the fact that he claimed that he was given help. Now, I told you guys earlier that OTF Jam said something where he was kind of probably trying to elicit a little bit of sympathy, where he basically said that he became the man of the house at 12, same age that he started doing shootings, and that he basically, you know, was putting food on the table. He was robbing people. He said that he was an armed robber, he said he was an armed robber, not a strong arm robber. And at some points, things got so real for him and his family, he had to literally stick people up with guns for food. Okay. Well, Brian Steele and them kind of clapped back. And they basically, look, I was 15 minutes late. There was a lot of difficulty getting the media into the room, but we got into the room 15 minutes. So I didn't see how the prosecution's, examination of Jam ended. But what we did see is I basically walked in there and Brian was already on his ass. All right. He was already putting belt to ass. And the first thing I heard was Brian Steele say, "Hey, you never really supported your family, did you?" Jam said, "Hey, if my mom was here, she would tell you." And then basically there were a bunch of sidebars. And what was crazy, something was going on. Something improper had been said. They weren't happy about it. And there was a bunch of sidebars. What was crazy, I'm not going to lie, Jam laughed. He was laughing and shaking his head. People were talking about he was shaking his head before. I see that. But people were acting like he was shaking his head like, man, I can't believe I'm telling. Nah, he was laughing, shaking his head, looking at Durk. Him and Durk were looking at each other, smiling at each other. Low-key on some like, yeah, I got you. Like, hey, all right, we're going to see my lawyer finna beat your ass on the stand. And what was basically crazy is that Brian Steele was forced to move on. But we actually heard at the end of the day, after the jury had left the room, apparently Brian Steele is trying to get some information across that the prosecution are having an issue with. But Brian Steele allegedly and the defense, they're trying to basically make this case that apparently Jam's family hate him. Apparently, like, he's hated by his family. None of them are here. The judge was like, look, we don't want to be over here talking about, like, why his family aren't in the court. It's not really fair to say, why aren't your family in the court? You know, there's multiple reasons they could be there. They could be scared. They could be, you know, not.
Oh, yeah. I know Armand. I met him at the Diddy trial as well. Armand is cool. Yeah, I'm gonna look at his stuff later. He does because I remember when me and Armand was in the courtroom with the Diddy trial, we were just doing like this, taking notes. We went through like 2 or 3 notebooks. So I know he take good notes.
There because, you know, they feel like it's too far to travel to California. They could be sick. So them not being there doesn't say anything, but it's like trying to make this case that Jam's family hate him is going to be difficult. So that kind of wasn't allowed, but it sounds like that might come back. They might find another way to attack Jam's character, but literally from the get-go, they were putting belt to ass, and Jam was laughing, shaking his head, looking over at Durk. They were looking at each other. That was wild, but there was a lot more, and Jam went back and forth with Brian Steele. Brian Steele beat him up a little bit, and then Jam kind of hit him back. It was crazy. So stay tuned for more updates. I've got a lot more coming. Okay, so one of the alleged lies that apparently was told by... Okay, so one of the alleged lies that apparently was told... All right, so I'm back outside the courthouse, man. We got all of the Free Durk gang out here. Once again, man, who's out here? Who's out here with the Free Durk gang? The Free Durk gang are outside. I'm not gonna lie, it's a less hostile crowd today. Maybe that's because Brian Steele just got up there and put some belt to ass to Jam. I'm not gonna lie, we heard a lot from Jam yesterday. I feel like everybody takes their anger out on me. Like, I'm not Jam, okay? I'm not the one testifying against Durk. I'm just trying to give the facts. But what's going on is it seems like people are cool with me. People are cool with me when Brian Steele is putting belt to ass, and that's what was going on. Brian Steele went absolutely crazy on OTF Jam. There were moments that Steele seemed like he was whooping Jam. He caught him in a couple of lies. Yeah, everybody, who's lying, who's telling the truth? Jam said a couple of things this morning that didn't add up to what he said this afternoon when Brian Steele was questioning him. So I ain't gonna lie, we see him why Brian Steele making those millions. He went pretty hard on Jam. He caught him in some contradictions, and I'm not gonna lie, Brian got pretty personal on Jam at certain points. He said a few comments to basically like call him out, saying like, this is what you do, you're a cold-blooded killer. They even said to him, there was one moment where the judge kind of like, you know, was basically saying, you get into the philosophy now, because Jam was basically saying, look, if I didn't kill Pab, if I didn't participate in this, I didn't know what I was even meant to be doing until I was flown out there. And if I said, no, where I'm from, if you stop someone getting killed, that's what gets you killed. And so Brian Steele was hitting him with these philosophical questions, being like, oh, yeah, well, then what makes you think that your life was worth more than somebody else's? This is just what you do. You're a cold-blooded killer. It was pretty crazy, but I'm not going to lie. I'm going to give you a whole bunch of updates from my notebook in separate videos. But Brian Steele went ballistic on Jam. But Jam had a few good moments where he kind of clapped back. And I'm not going to lie. Everybody comparing this to the YSL Woody situation. Jam smarter on that stand than Woody. No disrespect to Woody. I know Woody don't like me anyway, so it is what it is. But at the end of the day, I feel like Jam a lot smarter. He a lot slicker. He low-key was disrespecting Brian Steele at certain points. And Brian Steele was disrespecting him back. There were a few things that sounded kind of improper. I was a little bit confused by some of the things that were being allowed to slide. But at the same time, you see why Brian Steele worth them millions, okay? He was looking sharp up there. There was a lot going on. Yesterday, it was like he was throwing a bunch of tantrums, objecting to everything. The government didn't really object too many times. They let Brian Steele have his way. They seemed pretty confident in what Jam was saying. Jam seemed pretty confident in what he was saying, but there were a few times that he got tongue-tied. So I'm going to break down all the little specific little skirmishes that happened between Brian and Jam in a bunch of separate videos. So I'm going to get to that straight after this. So
That's what Brian Steele is doing. He's trying to discredit the witness right now. He's going hard on him. He didn't even, well, in his cross-examination, you know, that's what he's supposed to do. He's trying to discredit his character in front of the jury to try to create doubt. And also remember, you only need one to hang that jury. You just need one. But he's trying to go for a full acquittal if he can do it. But yeah, it's an uphill battle though. That's what it seemed like.
Steele went down a pretty predictable path of trying to attack OTF Jam today. It didn't quite go his way, but he definitely did make a good point. One of the most obvious things that we knew we was going to hear regarding Jam was obviously his cooperation. Now, he's copped out to 3 murders, and, you know, obviously he's expecting something in exchange for cooperating and, you know, trying to help put Durk away. Now, Brian Steele said, you're testifying under an agreement, right? You hope to be released. And then Jam was basically like, not released. I'm looking for something. And then Brian Steele's like, do you want to be incarcerated? He said, look, you do the crime, you do the time. I just don't want the rest of my life, though. He basically said, I want to be free at some point. And he would refuse to say that he was expecting a specific amount of time. He basically just said, look, I want numbers. I don't want my whole life. And Brian Steele was hitting him back. He said, hey, well, I heard that you told one of your loved ones that you only expect to serve 18 months. And Jam was like, someone I love? Who are you talking about? He said, you told your wife on a jail call you was only expecting to be in there for 18 months. And you...
All right, let me stop right there. A good lawyer is never going to pose a question he don't know the answer to. So that means that happened. There's a jail call. He would have never said that. Someone of his caliber, he wouldn't have said that in trial if it wasn't true. 18 months, that's what he's looking at. So the jury can't unhear that. It's like, okay, so he looking at 18 months, ain't he a stone cold killer? Yeah. So he has every, and then also he, Brian Steele put out there that he met with the feds over 26 times, only a couple occasions were recorded. So now I'm thinking as a juror, all them other times that weren't recorded, were they coming up with their alibi? That's what I'll be thinking. But it's still an uphill battle, though. Still is.
You're going to be in home for the for one of your kids' birthdays. And he basically said, I don't remember saying that. I don't know what you're talking about. And it was interesting because it's like, I thought Brian Steele was about to introduce some evidence to that, but then he didn't. He kind of moved on. But then he continued on talking. I'm not going to lie. I think he was striking fear into the hearts of the jury. The idea that this guy who allegedly, not even allegedly, he's admitted to catching 3 bodies, might just be back out here on the streets. But it was basically made clear that he wasn't planning, he wasn't expecting to be out soon. Brian Steele's saying, what, you thought you could manipulate your way to get out of custody? You've been in and out of custody your whole life. You understand the criminal system. You're street smart. He said, I'm street smart, but I never said I understood the criminal system. So another thing that Brian Steele said, he said to Jam, he said, look, now you're on the witness stand. You're hoping you'll get back on the street. Apparently Jam said, yeah, I guess. And they said, well, you're the reason why Durk's in court. And after that, he basically said, well, no, I just told the truth. Brian Steele said the truth's going to be decided by the public or the jury. And then he said, you're begging and hoping for a guilty verdict on Durk so that you can get out.
You see what Brian Steele is doing? He's casting doubt in the jury's mind. He said, you're hoping for a guilty verdict so you can get out. That's it. There is no payment tying Durk to this murder. That's what he's going to say in his closing. I know he is. There's no payment tying him to it. And he's going to hammer down what reasonable doubt is for at least an hour. He has to. He did it in the Diddy trial. Actually, he didn't do the closing in the Diddy trial. But however, he had a hand in it. They got to hammer down what reasonable doubt is for at least an hour. Because remember, the defense only had one shot at it. The prosecutors have 2 shots at the jury. They have their opening statement, then closing statement, and then the defense had their closing statement. Then the government has their rebuttal to the defense. They only get 1 shot at it. So you got to hammer down what reasonable doubt is to see if you can try to get a hung jury or a full acquittal.
Jam clapped back. He said, no, I'm not. I'm just here admitting my side and being honest. Brian Steele said, you want to go home? Jam said, look, I just want a number. I want to go home at some point. Brian Steele said, you want to go home immediately. You realize what you did. You were on this crazy mission to do murder and you're trying to get out of it. So look, to be honest, I feel like it was kind of...
I don't know if Brian Steele said that. He said you were on this crazy mission to do a murder. But see, here's the thing. They're going to have to, when they present their case, try to say that Durk wasn't a part of this. They were doing this on their own to try to get back at Quando Rondo, and the other person had more of an incentive to go after Quando Rondo. But then they better hope that the jury don't know this, because they were like, well, because I'm thinking that he would have an incentive to get Quando Rondo as well. But I don't know if the jury knows this, or they, obviously they probably don't. So all he had to do is create a little doubt. That's all he has to do, and see what happens.
Kind of very interesting. I feel like maybe Brian Steele thought that it was going to land harder. So there was a crazy moment in court when Brian Steele was cross-examining OTF Jam, and Brian Steele was definitely putting in some work. He was really doing his best to trash Jam's character, and he got off some very interesting points. he obviously got him to, retell the situation where he had allegedly done like hundreds of armed robberies, over 100 armed robberies.
Let me stop right there real quick. I saw your comment. You're right about that. I keep forgetting he got 2 other co-defendants sitting there. Do y'all think this was something that you would take to trial? Or you just take a deal or something? I don't know. This is hard, bro. It is. It's hard. But like I said, I've seen Brian Steele commit. I seen him make 2 miracles. Let's see if he can do it again.
And he basically very dramatically retold the story of OTF Jam's first alleged body when he was 17. He basically said, and it was very interesting. He was talking about, you do armed robbery, you take advantage of situations for your benefit. Jam said, you got to explain what you mean a bit better. It's so funny because then Brian Steele said, well, look, you might want to take my watch. And then Jam said, I never stole a watch in my life. You just made up a story. What are you talking about? So OTF Jam was a lot more feisty on the stand than other people that we've seen. But Brian Steele basically told the story very dramatically. Obviously, he's very good at telling stories and building a narrative. He said at 17, you went to a store, you locked the door, you trapped your victim with you and your armed friend. Jam clapped back. He said, nah, it was only me that was armed. He said you had your gun loaded. You didn't know if the person in there had a family. You knew nothing. You just wanted to get what you wanted. And he said that when that clerk didn't want to be under your control, what did you do? Jam said, I killed him. And Brian Steele said, not just that, you blew his brains out. That was very, very dramatic. But obviously, I see what he's trying to explain. Now, Brian Steele said, when you blew his brains out, Jam said, yeah, I blew his brains out. When Brian Steele went on, he said, did the brains get all over you and the gun? And Jam went, well, no, that's not what happened. So Brian Steele painting this picture and Jam kind of like, bro, that's not how it went down. There wasn't no brains on me and the gun. Like, that's crazy. But then Brian Steele said, that's what you do. After he said you blow people's brains out, that's what you do. Jam said, well, that's just your opinion. And he said, you let him lay and linger. And Jam was like, what are you trying to say? I didn't do CPR. But Brian Steele, he basically said, you slaughtered a human, you took his property, and he drove back to Chicago and bragged. And Jam said, I didn't brag about it. Brian said, you thought about it. Jam said, I actually did. They said, what did you do about it? And he said, I thought about it and I called a gang meeting. They said, you ever meet with the victim's family? He said, nah. Brian Steele said, you just went on with your life. It didn't bother you. And he said, no, it did bother me. That's why I called a gang meeting. But then that was dramatically followed by him saying, you killed other people. Jam said, who? He said, Lil Dean. Jam said, you know I didn't murder him, right? And then suddenly there was a sidebar. That kind of kicked off a whole fury in the courtroom.
Yeah, I could see how that would have kicked off. Like he said, he named somebody that he killed. So here's the thing. Remember how I said there's not supposed to be any surprises. And usually when there's surprises, there's always a sidebar. Like, come on, man, we didn't agree to this. Now you bringing up that murder. And so obviously that means Durk or somebody have knowledge of him doing that for him to even say that. Yeah, they going hard, guys. This is ugly. The defense haven't even put on their case yet, and this is ugly.
There was then a private conversation. After that, it was made clear, basically they went back and forth, and Jam said this was a kidnap resulting in death. I pled guilty, but I didn't pull the gun. I didn't kill him. I didn't even see him get shot. And later on, Brian Steele asked him about the Lil Pav incident and basically said, you flew out there, you didn't know, but when you were told in Hooters that you were going to kill Quando, you went along with it. Brian Steele said, murder is in your heart. It was crazy. And Jam laughed and he just went, no, it's not. And Brian said, you don't care who you hurt. He said, yes, I do. So Jam's saying that he got a heart, even though he got 3 bodies. And, he's still out here. So there was a crazy moment in court when Brian Steele was cross-examining. So there was a crazy moment in court when Brian Steele was cross-examining. All right, so look, one of the interesting things that came up was kind of this big argument that OTF Jam was trying to make, that he didn't really want to murder Quando Rondo. Obviously, it ended up killing Lil Pab, that he didn't really want to do it. He didn't get told until he landed in California that that's what they were there for. That's the purpose that they were there for. And he kept making this argument that, like, if I didn't go along with it, where I'm from, if you stop someone killing someone, that gets you killed. Now, Brian Steele had a lot to say about that. He's saying that the facts don't really match up. He's saying that you didn't backtrack. You didn't try and stop. You had no hesitation. You landed in California, got told the plan, and your to-do list was one thing: murder. And it was interesting because he was like, look, you won't even opened up and kind of, you know, cooperated about this when you got arrested for a gun and you was trying to get out that jam. He was saying you didn't self-surrender. Your guilty conscience didn't get the better of you and cause you to walk into a police station. And he basically went on to say you didn't try and stop it. He said, I texted Dee. I was trying to stop it. I didn't say stop it, but I was trying to say it's too hot. These guys ain't prepared. We don't know these guys like that. And basically, they're saying, why didn't you stop it? You're meant to be a high-ranking BD minister. You're the highest, most dangerous rank that you can possibly be. Jam clapped back. He said, look, not every minister is dangerous. And then Brian Steele was like, well, you're dangerous. And then Jam was just like, not all ministers are dangerous. And Brian Steele said, well, if you texted Dee a bunch of stuff trying to stop the murder, where are those texts? Why can't you show it? He said, I can't. So I don't have my phone. I don't have them texts. And then Brian said, well, as a BD minister, you could have given the gun back and walked away. Jam said, it's not that easy. Obviously, he said previously that he was mad at Durk. He said, I don't know why they called me. I'm not the only minister. But he said, when I came home from jail, OTF was everything and Durk was the leader. Brian Steele said, yeah, well, according to you, but if you had a conscience, you could have just left. Jam said, it's not that easy. Brian Steele said, what, you'd rather kill a human that you didn't know than walk away? Jam said, or get killed myself. And Brian said, what, you think you're more important than the people you kill? Jam laughed and said, no. There was a funny moment where Brian said to Jam, he said, look, you're a dangerous man, right? And he was like, he said, you're objectively a dangerous man. Jam said, I don't know what objectively means. He said, you're dangerous, like right now. And Jam laughed. He went, I'm chilling. Later on, Brian Steele basically said, why do you feel like other people should die so you don't have to die if you felt like you would be killed if you walked back from this? And basically, they were kind of talking about that. They kind of went back and forth about that. And then they said, why didn't you, why didn't you stay at the scene? Like, if you were that worried. He said, look, obviously, I'm not going to stay there. Nobody would just stay at the scene after committing a crime like that. No one would do that. And Brian Steele said, well, you're different. You're not like everybody else. This is what you do, Mr. Minister. And basically, like, Jam laughed at that point. He said, yeah, I'm different for sure. And then he pointed at Dee and he said, well, he a minister too. And then Brian said, well, you're a professional. Jam said, we're not professionals. We just paying attention to the situation.
He pointed at Dee, said he a minister too. Oh my God. Ooh, this is a movie. God, this is a movie. This is a crazy movie. Who's Dumber movie, but this is a movie. Yeah, I'm a minister, but he's a minister. They're pointing at, oh my God.
This was the first time that he had seen Vonnie in this trip, and everyone said, what's up? Jam shook Vonnie's hand. And then Vonnie came back with Dee. He said, the bad news, only got 3 guns. And then Jam says he remembers he gave out some guns, right? He had 2 Glocks with extendos, and he said that they were hanging out one of their pockets of their hoodie. He couldn't remember who. They had extended clips. He said he gave a Glock to David Lindsay, and Flocker, Asa, got given... is that right? Hang on a second. My bad. Flocker being Keith Jones. They basically gave another Glock to Flocker. That was the Glock with the switch on it. And then Dee was holding a Beretta in his hand. And apparently he said, I'm rusty. It's been a while. And then handed the Beretta to Jam. So it was basically these guns being handed out determined who was a shooter from that moment on. And it was never questioned. Jam made it clear that a switch is what makes a Glock fully automatic. They're saying that Flocker, aka Keith Jones, had the switch. Yeah, Flocker was the one with the switch. That was confirmed. And then they basically said someone was delivering a 4-door car. It was white with tinted windows. This was the slider for the murder, the Infinity. And he said that the person that dropped it off, he didn't know who they were, but they wiped off the door handle with their sleeve, got paid, and then left.
This is my bad. This is crazy. These people like serial killers, man. That's what this is. This is a serial killer organization. It's crazy. Yeah, I don't see how he getting off this, guys. I'm just being real with you. I don't. It's hard. Let me see if Taylor.
They didn't take me. Hey man, I see you every day. Okay, cool. I want to hold this. Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Okay.
He took a picture with the knot. That's Lil Durk's dad. Free Durk shirts. Oh Lord, it's crazy, man. Thank you for the membership, old boy. I see you. I see you. I mean, super. My bad. I'm getting y'all mixed up. Super. Thank you for the member. How come this isn't no RICO case? It's coming. There's another case. This is just the first one. Crazy, bro. Crazy day. Crazy day. Crazy day. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say about this one, bro. You said Durk was on another cell phone communicating with OTF Didi, who the shooters would talk to him to communicate to Durk because Durk said he didn't want no communications with the shooters flying in. Gee, they really rap about what they do, man. Guys, to be continued, guys. I'm done. My head is spinning on this one, yo. My head is spinning on this case. I'll be back. I'll be back, guys. I gotta like gather myself. This is too much, man. It's too much. And he got a wife. What's her name? India. It's crazy. It just stay in that lifestyle, guys. That's the only thing I can say. They're in that lifestyle. You can't give up the lifestyle because you got money. You in the lifestyle. You could easily walk away, especially your kids come first. You could easily walk away, but he didn't want to do it. The only thing I can say, man. But guys, I'll be back in a minute. This is crazy though. I'm gonna have to do a part 2. We'll see. I want to see if some people give updates later. Then I'll be back. But right now, this is part 1, guys, of the update. I will be back. Thank you for joining. I will be back, guys. This is crazy though. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.